Hey out there in cameraland, thought I'd do another video. Part of the reason I'm doing this video is one of my viewers asked about this camera I keep waving around, and it was cool that she asked because actually I've been meaning to do a video on this camera. And the camera in question is my Contax RX. If you've watched my bag videos, you've seen me use it as a bag model. I throw it into bags to show how different cameras fit into different bags. So I've been waving it around quite a bit. Have always been meaning to do a review of it because I think it's a phenomenal camera. So a little bit about Contax. Contax is one of the top tier manufacturers from I guess the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they're right up there with Nikon and Canon, just not as well known. The cameras are very fine. They made a professional series of cameras called the RTS. There was an RTS 1, 2, and 3. In the 90s they produced quite a few other ones. I mean, there's the RX, there's an ST, there's an S2, there's a 169. I can't remember them all. They made so many SLR bodies it kind of boggles the mind. But anyway, the RX kind of slots in right underneath the RTS line, probably at the top of the prosumer line, whereas the RTS is clearly a pro camera. Anyway, this camera has some really interesting features. First off, it's got a lot of automation. There's no wind lever because it has a motor drive built in. It's not a high-speed motor drive, but it's fast enough for most casual use. It has aperture priority and shutter priority auto exposure. It also has program mode auto exposure, which means the camera picks a good basic combination of aperture and shutter speed. Then you can change either aperture or shutter speed and it'll do the right thing on the other exposure setting. And it's got full manual. One of the neat features that it has, I don't think any other camera has this, at least from the film days, it has a focus confirmation feature built into the viewfinder. I can't remember what they call it. I think they call it DFI for digital focus indicator. It's something like that. I'll try to show the viewfinder so you can see what this display looks like, but it's basically a little kind of a, if you imagine a number line with 0 in the middle, and 0 would be perfect focus. It kind of slides through some LEDs back and forth from negative to positive so that you know where the focus position is, and when you have focus nailed, that thing's right dead center. It's kind of an interesting feature. It's not autofocus, but it's basically a focus aid. The camera also offers a lot of customization, which is kind of interesting. It has 9 sort of categories of customization, and it allows you to choose certain aspects of operation, like the way the focus assistance works. One feature that I really love that I think I'll demonstrate is the film rewind mode, either to rewind the film all the way into the canister or to rewind it and leave some leader. That's a pretty cool feature. When I demonstrate it, I'll talk more about that. So it's a great all-around, highly electronic, highly automated camera that lets you work in full manual mode. One of the reasons to shoot a Contax is the lenses. I am a pretty intense Zeiss fan, and Carl Zeiss makes the lenses for Contax cameras. There's a pretty good line. It's not as deep as a Nikon or Canon line, but there are a lot of focal lengths available, and like all Carl Zeiss lenses for this camera are incredible. What I have on here right now is a 50mm f1.7. They make a 1.4. I just haven't bothered investing in one. It's only a half stop faster than this one. I'll probably just stick with it, honestly. So this is a plenty fast lens for low light. I've shot Tri-X in some pretty dark indoor conditions with this camera, and this lens has done very nicely. Over here I have a Contax 28 f2.8. this lens is phenomenal. I can't believe the color rendition that I get out of this lens. It's ultra sharp, contrasty. I can't say enough good about it. I've really loved the photos I've gotten out of this lens. Additionally, I've ordered on eBay a zoom lens, a 35 to 70 made for this camera. It's an f3.5 lens, and from everything I read, it's like one of the best lenses ever made for any camera system anywhere. Pretty narrow zoom range, but a relatively fast aperture. I consider 3.4 constant aperture to be pretty good. But it's that performance. The performance of it is supposedly equivalent to primes at all focal lengths. So that's a pretty incredible claim. I've seen some test results from it, and it looks like it's true. So I ordered one of those. I've been kind of waiting, trying to find one at the right price. Finally found one. So at this point, I'm going to turn the camera around and go over the features of this guy. Alright, so here we're looking into the viewfinder of the Contax RX, and at the bottom of the viewfinder, first off, you can see that the image is out of focus by either looking at the split screen or the ground glass part of the viewfinder. At the bottom, there's a display telling us that. It's like a little number line kind of guy. You see it blinking and telling me that I need to turn to the left. So I'm going to do that. And we should see that display shift as I get it into focus. It's a little bit sensitive. This light's not the best. But once that guy gets centered, I should be in focus. I'm being a little bit jerky, so it's not being all that great. Okay, at this point I roughly have it in focus. It works much better in practice than what you're seeing here. While I have it up here, on the right hand side, that's exposure information. And a little up and down arrow, I guess right now, I can't really tell. I'm kind of looking at the back of the camera. Looks like a down arrow. It's telling me it's underexposed. You basically want to get the up and down arrow displayed at the same time, and then you have a good exposure when you're shooting in manual mode. And you can see that this guy uses a split image focusing mechanism as well, which is a pretty accurate way to focus. So you don't really need that display. It's just a nice confirmation.